Hello everyone, good morning. Please, if you can hear me, can you indicate in the chat box? If anyone can hear me, please indicate either on YouTube or here. But yeah, everyone should be on YouTube right now. So please, if you can hear me, kindly indicate on YouTube on the comment maybe in the comment section. Hi Andrea, good morning. I need to know if everyone can hear me, please. If you can hear me, kindly indicate. Thank you. Okay, all right. So we are just going to start. Welcome to today's class, everyone. Good morning, Temi. Good morning, Adedoyin. Good morning, Mol. Good morning, Andrea. Andrea Lazarus from South Sudan. Welcome. So today we'll be working on HTML forms, IDs, and classes. But before we get to that there are some things that we need to do when it comes to setting up our VS Code. So I'm going to be sharing my screen briefly now for a while. Then I'm going to show us a few things we need to do to set up our code editing environment and to work on projects because we'll be given assignments and we might get confused on what to do. So I'm going to be sharing my screen now. Please, if you can see, just indicate in the chat box or something. Give me some minutes. I'm coming. Alison and Bridget, please, if you can see the folder I'm currently working on, can you indicate, please?
Yes, we can see it. We can actually see it.
Okay. All right. So now, everyone, let's say you were given an assignment to work on in like for example, after this week's classes, then you asked to work on an assignment. But what is the first thing to do? This is something that I do while trying to like create a project, like a coding project. So the first thing you do is you wouldn't head over to VS Code to make sure that your work is neat and everything. You need to go to your documents folder at first, and you can now create a sub folder for your document. But I already have something like this created, so I just named it codes. Then so that my work will be neat or something. So let me just make another. So yeah, you create a folder. You can call it code for you. You can call it my first coding experience or something like that. Anything that you can be able to differentiate. Okay, this folder is meant for all my codes and stuff. So I named my major folder code for you. Then let's say you were asked to work on since you're working on forms today, then they asked you to work on forms. You can just say forms. Then you have created this forms folder. This is just one thing that you have created, just the folder, an empty folder. Actually, there's nothing inside. It's fine. You have created this folder. Then you now head back to VS Code. You open your Visual Studio Code. So let me just start from the beginning. Let me close this folder. This is something that you would see the moment you open your VS Code. Like if you're a new one, you haven't done anything or stuff. So you are going to come here to open folder. You either come here or you come to files here. It's still the same thing. So you come here or come to files and you say open folder, then you locate your folder wherever it is. So you have a lot of documents on my system. So you need to know where you saved your file. So yeah, this is forms. Select folder. Now, this is still something that you're going to see. This is just like a tab for VS Code. So you just cancel this so that it wouldn't confuse you. Now, as you can see, because our folder is empty, there's nothing here. This is like literally empty. So the very first thing to do will be there are four icons here. The first one is a file if you want to create a new file. Second one is if you would like to create a new folder under the folder that you created. And then this is for refreshing your browser. Then this is to collapse the folder in the Explorer. So now forms, we want to create a new file. So let's the first thing you need to do is create your index.html. Now, if you notice, before I typed HTML, like this icon was literally nothing. But then after I typed .html, there are different extensions for coding. They are like according to each programming language. There's HTML, there's CSS, there's JavaScript, there's C, there's C++. So we are working with HTML right now. Hence, our extension has to be .html. If you are working with CSS, it's going to be .css. The icons here are also changing. If it's JavaScript.js, so we are working with HTML, so .html. Now, this is something like this is like a page resembling the one that Bridget showed us yesterday. What is the next thing? You were asked to create a forms and you were asked to create a forms as an assignment. Then you created your folder, you opened it in VS Code, you've created your HTML page. What is the next thing? Now there's something called I think doc information or something like that. Sorry, I've forgotten. It's going to like you need that. It's more or less like a something you need to set up your coding environment. So instead of having to type everything like doc type and stuff, there's this thing called meta abbreviation. What you're going to do right now is to press Shift 1, then you press your enter. It will automatically generate everything for you. So this is one of the major reasons why VS Code is more popular amongst developers these days. It's because of its easy to use interface, and you can just press shortcuts without having to type the full code yourselves. In older code editors, you'd need to type everything here by yourself. You could like start by saying let's see, doc type. Okay, this is actually a comment type HTML. So this doc type HTML is like something that you need to that is going to tell your is it your browser or your code editor that okay, what I'm doing right now is an HTML file. So every other thing here, so doc type and HTML language, it's supposed to be in English. Then the heads, this will contain your should I say this is a setting that you need to have to for your browser to be able to understand what you would like to do. Sorry. So title document. So yeah, everything here has been generated for you with just a click of one button. Let's do it again. Let me cancel this. Shift 1, you have it here already. So we have the meta just said I don't know, I think Bridget explained this part yesterday. I forgot what they called it. So documents. Sorry, I'm outside. Sorry for the background noise, I'm outside. So title. I want to show you the work of this title. I think is it an attribute? I think Bridget explained it as an attribute yet as an attribute yesterday. So when you go to a browser, okay, let's see, let me see, let me call it my forms, my form. Then you want to see the result of your code. You'll come over to run without debugging. Actually, you can do this without your live server, but if you have your live server installed, I have my live server installed. You'll see this go live button here. Let me see if I can zoom in. Let me collapse this. So you can see this go live button installed. It's here. It's because I have my live server installed. So I can just click go live button. It's going to open a browser for me. I use Chrome and I also use Microsoft Edge, but it is opening this is Microsoft Edge. It's opening Microsoft Edge for me. So this page is blank because it's blank because like we haven't done anything. Now, if you notice this place here, this title here, this thing here, you can see my form. Now this is what the title in your VS Code does. It like shows you like what's it tells the browser what that thing is about and it displays for you on your browser. Let's see this again. Let's say this is code for you orientation, like the title I are seeing here. This is StreamYard, this is HTML basic, this is Boomplay. So my form is a title that's going to be displayed on your browser for your particular project. You can as well leave it as just documents, but for it to be more specific and to look more professional, because you actually need it along the line while you develop. So this is just basically the shortcut I wanted to show you. You create your folder in your file explorer first, then you head over to VS Code to find that folder and open it. Then you create your HTML documents. Then you use the MS shortcut Shift 1 to what's the English? To open this few lines of code. Then what else do we have here? We have the body. Now it's inside this body that you will now start to work on your code. I think Bridget showed us H1 yesterday. She showed us the heading tags. She showed us the heading tags. She showed us paragraphs. She showed us paragraphs. She showed us the anchor tags. Now, if you notice, I don't need to type all these lines, like all these tags finish. I think they're called elements, yes, tags or elements. Okay. I didn't need to type all these things by myself. I just like press the first word and then VS Code brought the suggestions for me. So it's like it also brings you suggestions without having to, like I said earlier, type everything. So it saves you the stress a lot. What else did we learn yesterday? I think image source. As we have image sizes, everything. So I'm really working with image source. So you just need to know what you want to type in full, then just type it shortly, then just press enter, and VS Code will bring the suggestions for you. So I think I'm done with you. So I'm going to be handing over to Bridget right away. Let me just stop sharing. Okay. Bridget, okay. Yeah, I can. I didn't add you to the. I didn't add you to the stuff.
Okay. Thanks for the recap. So I'm trying to share my screen now. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Entire screen. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I can. I can see your screen.
Okay. Okay, so I'll be taking you guys on HTML forms, then classes and ID today. Okay. So we've already like created a file yesterday. So I'll just be using the same file. I just deleted what I put in the body. But this time I'll change the title to HTML forms and then let me just change the title. Okay. HTML forms. Okay. So we already know how this would show up now. The title it just shows let me open my live server. Sorry, it's loading now. It takes time, sure. Okay, so this is where the title actually shows, like this header. That's the essence of the title. So that when you open like a web page, okay, you know what from the title you have an idea of what the body is about, like what the whole content is about. So that's just the essence of the title. Okay. It won't show in the body because it's under the header, like so yeah. Okay, so we'll be starting now. Someone asked a question about that the person's life server isn't showing and all those. So I just want to like show everyone how to like add like the life server extension. Let me just run through that very fast. So this like these icons here. This one. You see when you hover on it, remember what I told you yesterday, tooltip. So the essence of the tooltip, that title attribute that we learned yesterday, when you just hover on this now, you see that they write extensions and you have an idea of what this particular icon that you're hovering over is. So that's the work of the title that we learned yesterday. So this you go to extensions by the side, you click on it, then I already have my live server installed. So what you just do, you just type live server here, like you just search for it because that will not be the first thing they will show you. Sha. So just search for live server. Okay, when you now search for the live server, then you can now like just click on install. Mine is already installed, so that's why there's no option for installing here. See all these ones. Okay, this one is not installed. This one is not installed. So when I click on it, it would get installed. So just click on this and it gets installed. Then you'll be able to access the live server option. Okay. Okay, let's move to what we have today. So our topic today is HTML forms. Um yeah, HTML forms. Okay, sorry. Okay. HTML forms, sorry. This stuff is taking time to load. Okay. So we have the HTML forms are one of the let me zoom my screen so that you get a better view. Am I zooming out? I'll be zooming in. What am I doing? Okay. Okay, the picture itself is not zooming, it's just the whole this thing that is zooming in. Okay. So remember our reference and material is W3 schools. So and I'll send the link to the exact for the exact topic for today. So this is HTML forms. We have that HTML form is used to collect user input. The user input is most often sent to a server for processing. So we know some example of forms now, like the login form, the contact us form, the sign up forms and all, which we usually use like when we want to sign up to a website. So those forms they are used to collect user input. That's why you have to put your name, your email, and they usually ask for your input for you to be able to access the website. So this is just like a an example of a form. This is an example of a form. Okay. So the HTML form is used to create a HTML form for user input. So that's basically it. And the form element, like when you want to create like a form, you have to use the form element, which is this like form with the in this tag, the form element. So we have that the form element is a container for different types of input elements, such as the text fields, checkboxes, radio buttons, and submit buttons. And we'll go through all these input elements, form input elements. We'll go through each of them one by one. So if I want to create a form now, I'll come to my body. Everything that will be shown on the screen should be written within the body tag, else you won't see it. So within my body now, I would hope my screen is visible enough. I just zoomed it now. Is visible enough, right? It's not so tiny. Okay, I guess it's visible enough. Okay, so I would put my form tag. When you want to create a form, you use a form tag. And like I said yesterday, the VS Code just gives you the closing tag, like the closing tag. So I'll just click on enter. Then Now within this form tag is where I'll now do everything I want to do for my form, HTML form. Okay. So we start with the form tag. This is like the parent tag that will now house everything, all the input elements for the form tag. Okay, so we have that the HTML input element is the most used form element. So this input tag now is the most used form element. We basically use it for, like, whenever you're creating form, it's what you always use most of the time. So it's the most used form element. And the input element can be displayed in many ways depending on the type attribute. So this input elements like has like, let's say, the majority, like the very common ones are like are five. Which are these five? The first type is the text, which displays a single line text input. We'll go through each of them one by one. Let me just list them out. Then the second one is the radio type, which displays a radio button. That's for selecting one or many choices. Now, a radio button, okay, we'll just, when we get to that, I would explain better. Let me just run through them very fast. Then the next type is checkbox, which displays a checkbox. That's for selecting zero or more of many choices. That's for this checkbox. Now, the difference between this radio and the checkbox is that for the radio button, you can select like so many choices at the same time. But with checkbox, you can select just one option at a time. So that's the difference between this radio and checkbox. We'll still go into that. Then the next type we have is the submit. It's the submit. It displays a submit button, like for submitting the form. Now, when you finish filling in your details in any form that you're filling, there would always be an action button, which is usually the submit button. Then, which is the submit. Yeah, then another type is the button that displays a clickable button. Okay, so we'll go through each of them one by one now. The first one we talked about was the text type, input type text, that defines a single input field for text input. Okay, so first thing we do is to put the parent tag, which is the form. Like I mentioned, the parent tag, which is the form. Then we use the label. Okay, yeah, we use the. Let me just go down. This explains it better. Now, the label tag defines a label for many form elements. Now, like, let me say you want to like get something, you want to like buy something. It usually has like a label which shows you that, okay, with the label on the stuff you're buying, you know what that thing is. You know what that is. So now this label still works that's the same way, in that this label now, for instance, in this example, you see label for this F name is like first name. This is the text, first name. So this label now is for what? We're asking what's the label for? It's for first name. So you could just like write F name instead of writing the full first name, F name. So that's what label is used for. That's what label is used for. So let me go down. So we have that the label element is useful for screen reader users because the screen reader will read out loud the label when the user focuses on the input element. Now the label element also helps users who have difficulty clicking on very small regions such as the radio buttons or the checkboxes, because when the user clicks the text within the label element, it toggles the radio button or the checkbox. Now, the four attributes, we noticed that in that example I gave, the label usually goes with the four attributes. So, let me show you. Label for this particular label now, I'm trying to say that the label is for first name. So, label for F name. Then they are now trying to tell you that the label, that this four attributes now for the label is usually equal to the ID for the input element. So if we notice here, this four now equal to F name, and you see this ID now equal to first name, F name, you can see that they are the same. So what I'm just trying to say is that the label, the four attributes for the label, they are always equal to the ID attribute for the input. Okay, we'll go into this thing very soon. The practical aspect of it all. Okay, so let's try to just create like a simple form using this label and input this thing that we just did now. Okay, I'm coming. Sorry, this stuff is hanging. Okay, okay. So remember, it should always be embedded in the main parent container, which is the form. So label, you see, they even give you options. So you could just like click on this label, label. Okay. So we have label for, remember the label usually goes before. Now, okay, I want to use I want to write the first name. So my label now is for first name. I could just write like F name instead of writing the full first name. Label for first name. Then I could just write like, yeah, label for first name, okay. Then outside of it, I could now write my like first name. Let me put this on the same line so that it doesn't get confusing. Okay, so remember, label goes with four. So label for F name, which is the first name. Then let's see what the outcome will be on our live server. Okay, I've already opened the live server, so no need to do that again. So you can see this first name, but we won't see any input this thing yet because I've not yet added an input element. So this is the first name. So now, for this form to be complete, you know that it's always the input this thing. That's where you actually like feel okay. First name is just there, so there's no space for you to fill the first name. So that's where the input now comes in, where you can now impute your first name. So the input element now, I'll now put my input elements. Input. Okay. I remember. Okay, let me check. Remember that the inputs they have different types: the text, the checkbox, the radio, and submit, and all those. So we'll start with the first one, which is the text. So now, input type. The particular input type we're working on now is text, because whenever you're writing your name like as an input, it's a text now. It's not in a number format or radio button format or something. So it's usually a text. So the inputs that will go with this particular first name should be a type of text, like using the type text. Then remember what we said, we mentioned that the ID for the input element usually is equal to the four attributes for the label element. So if the four attributes here now for this label element is F name, that means the ID for this input element would also be the same thing. ID for this input element would also be this same value. So I'll just write F name. Then you could just add like name, but it's not so necessary. Name, you could just still write F name again. Okay. So yeah, that's how it works. So that's how it works. The input type is the text, ID, F name, name. You could just write like F name. So we'll see the outcome now. You know, initially they just wrote like first name. There was no place for you to like input your first name if you're to fill a form. So now that I've added this input stuff, you'd see now that okay, you can now see that now there is an input container where you can actually fill your name. So if I want to fill my name here now, I can just write my name, Bridget. Bridget. So you see how important the input element is, because without it, you will not be able to fill a form because you can't fill your name on top of this first name now. So that's why the label now, first name, is trying to explain to you what's like what you should fill inside the input element. So I guess that's understood. So that's how it works. So we've talked about the first type of input, which is the text. The same thing you can is this last name is also the same thing you did for the first name, so we don't necessarily need to do it. Or okay, let me just like um so I'll just copy and paste this stuff I've done and just change it to last name, the same thing, so I don't have to write it again. Sorry. Okay, so I'll change this to last name. Then this F for first name, I'll change it to L for last name. I'll change this to L for last name. I'll change this to L for last name. So this is what we have now. So this is what we have now. First name, I can put my first name here. I can okay, autofill. My last name, I can put my last name here. Let me just write something. Let me just write maybe Ngozi here. Okay. So remember the BR tag we talked about yesterday? This stuff does not really look, it will look better. I feel it looks better when this part goes down, like it's in a straight line. So if I want to bring this thing down now to be aligned with this one, I would use that tag, that tag, the empty tag BR that we learned yesterday, that brings like makes that breaks a line. So if I want to break this line now, make this last name with the inputs to come down, I'll just use BR. So let me apply that BR that we learned yesterday. So I'll just put it here. I'll just put it here, BR. I'll put it before the one I want to break, so that to break it before. So now I've added this BR, you see that okay, you can see now it has come down, and I think it looks better this way instead of a straight line. So it has come down. So that's the function of that BR. So remember we have BR, we have HR. So let me try HR. Let's see what's HR. So you have a better understanding of the difference between BR and HR. So if I use HR now, let's see what it does. Let's see Let's see what HR will give us. So you see that HR, we see this line, it gives like it takes it down, like gives makes it start from a complete different paragraph and leaves a line. Why BR just like breaks the line of this one. So we can see the difference now. But what we need here is not HR but BR. So I'll just change it back to BR. BR. Okay. So we just finished talking about the first type, which is the text. The first one, which is the text. So let me, okay, just write type text. I'll just comment this out. I'll just comment it. Oh, sorry. Okay. Remember to comment the shortcut for commenting. Let me put this in. The shortcut to comment is control question mark. You don't need to cram this to start writing these stuff one by one. Just do control and question mark. It comments out something that you don't want to show, like just to give you like a better information. So we are done with the type text. Now let's move to the next type. Still everything will still be under form. So let's move to the next type. Let's see the next type that we have. So okay, I've explained label. I've explained like what label does and all. So the next input type we have is the radio button. So let me let me just write it and comment it out. Type Radio, type radio. So I want to comment it out now. I just moved to the last this thing after to the last stuff and now press control question mark to comment and it just comments out. Okay. Okay, so now for the radio buttons, we have that the input type radio, it defines a radio button. And we know that radio buttons let a user select one of a limited number of choices. So with radio button, you can only choose just one option. You can't choose more than one. Why for checkbox, you can choose more than one option. That's the difference between radio buttons and checkboxes. Okay, so now we would move into the practical aspect of it. So from the paragraph, choose your favorite web language. Then the form, remember, everything you're doing should be embedded within the form parent container. So the first type we did was text. So now we're doing the radio. The next type we're doing now is the radio. So that's why this input type changes from text to radio. From text to radio. So now let's practicalize this one. So instead of type text now, since we're doing for radio buttons, you change that text to radio. Okay. So let's do this. Let me just put my okay. So label with this sorry. Okay, the label can come before the input or anyone shall any of the above. So we'll start with the input type. Input now. This particular input, the type is radio. The other one was text. So the type depends on the one you want to use. So the type is radio. Okay. Now let's see the next this thing. I'll explain each of them one by one. Now ID. ID is ID is used to explain like a unique is unique to a particular thing. So when you say okay, just like ID means like normal this an identity card. So when you have like your identity card, no one else has the same identity card with another person because it's unique to different individuals. It's unique to a particular individual. So you can actually apply that here. So ID now for okay, this thing choose your favorite web language. And the different web languages here we have HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So this particular ID now, this one now is HTML. Okay. Then the name favorite language is like the name of what this form is about because they say choose your favorite web language. The name is just about what the form is about. So our ID now, our first ID for this one is HTML. So we'll just write um ID HTML is unique to it and no other one. Like you can't have the same ID for two different texts. You can't have the same ID for two different texts. We'll come to ID and classes after this. So now the ID HTML, then name like I told you. Choose your favorite web language, like what you're talking about. So you just the name is like favorite language. You could just like write the shortcut for it. Name favorite language. We use this underscore because it's not really advisable to like leave spaces in between when you're coding. So most times we just use underscore instead of either putting it close together or leaving a space. You just use an underscore for that. And make sure, see this stuff now. You're supposed to leave a space before the name. Then all these things should be written inside a quotation mark. It should be written within a quotation mark. And if you're using a double quotation, you should continue with you don't write a double quotation at the start and at the end you now use like a single quotation. Be consistent with whatever quotation you want to use. If you want to use single quotation, that's fine, but make sure you use it throughout. Then if you want to use double quotation, make sure you use it throughout also. So all of them they're usually put inside a quotation. Now value is HTML. The value is HTML. the value of what we want to do now is HTML. All these stuffs. Okay, okay, okay. Make sure you don't forget to close your inputs. And this input, this thing does not have like a closing tag. It's just an opening tag. It does not have a closing tag. And those are called empty tags. Yes. So it does not have like a closing tag. It's just on its own. And everything you're writing will be inside it. So now we are done with the input. Now we'll move to the label now. And like I explained, label, like the label of something is like the name of the thing that you're talking about. So now this label now is for HTML. And remember that the label, the four attributes for the label should always be equal to the ID attribute of the input. So now our ID attribute for this input is HTML, right? So our four attributes should also be HTML. So just take note of that. When your input, the ID is HTML, your four attributes should also be HTML. So I'll just write HTML, I label. Sorry, not supposed to be in capital letter. But it doesn't matter, sha. But make sure you use small letter, even though it does not matter. Okay, so label now. Okay, so now inside this label we have label for, and it should be equivalent to the ID. So I'll write HTML inside here now. And take notes for this input, you see that it does not have like a closing tag, but for label, there is a closing tag for it because you have to write your text inside the label. So my text now will be HTML. HTML. Okay. So let's just see the output so far before we move on. Okay. So remember, radio, this is what a radio button looks like. I used the type radio. That's why this thing is like this. But the one I use for text, the type text, this is what it looks like because text, obviously, you're writing inside, like you're writing a text inside. But for radio buttons, you're just like checking. You just click on it and it checks. So it depends on what you want to achieve. If it's a text you want to write, then you use the type text. But if it's a radio button, then you use the type radio. Okay, so this is what we've achieved so far. And remember, if I want to move this stuff, this whole thing now to another line, like let me say down now, I use the BR tag, a BR tag. Okay. So I'll use the BR tag now to bring it down. Let's not be on the same line with that other one. So I'll just use the BR tag here now, like before it. So BR. Sorry, why is this in capital letter? Okay. BR. Okay. So now you see that it will move down. So now you see it's down. So that's the function of that BR tag. Okay, then let's move. So this radio now, it's usually like when you use it maybe when you have like several options. So that means it's not only HTML now. There will be for you to have to choose from an option. There has to be options. So you can't just have just one option. So all I'll just copy and paste like this one I've already done because it's still the same format that the other ones would. Oh, sorry. Control C. Okay. Okay. So I just copied and pasted this. So what I'll just do now is still input type radio, but now I'll change this my ID to CSS because we are talking about favorite web languages. So I'll change it to CSS because like CSS is a web language, JavaScript is a web language. So and I told you that an ID is unique. Okay, see, when you even hover on some of these things, they give you explanation of what it is about. ID now, see, defines a unique identifier which must be unique in the whole document. So this ID now, cannot be HTML here and also HTML here. It has to be unique to each of them whenever you're using ID. So now I've changed this to CSS. Then favorite language, my value will be CSS too. Just then label for my label is for this particular one now is for CSS, not HTML. So I'll change it to CSS. Then my text should be CSS too. Okay. So I'll just do the same thing. I'll have like three different options. So I'll just copy and paste again. Let me just paste again. So I'll now use JavaScript 2 as the third one. It's still the same typo, type radio, but the ID is changing because the ID has to be unique. It cannot something that is unique should not be like the same everywhere. So I'll change this to JavaScript. Mm, should I just use JS? Let me just use JS. Instead of writing the full name. Then my value will be JavaScript. Value JavaScript. Then my label, this particular label is for my JavaScript, not HTML. So I'll just change it. I just copied and pasted. That's why. And remember, my ID will be the same with these four labels. So as I wrote JS here, I'll also write JS here. I'll not write another thing. That should be the same thing. Okay. Then I'll change this thing to JavaScript also. Okay. Okay, now let's see what it looks like. Let's see what it looks like on the live server. Okay, so you can see what the radio button looks like. These are my options. These are the three options I have: HTML, CSS, JavaScript, and I'm to choose which one is the one that is my favorite. Okay, let me just say that my favorite is CSS. So when I click on this, it chooses CSS as my favorite. We usually use these things in exams, and when they give you like multiple choice questions and you have to choose the right answer, and you can't choose more than one option. So that's the use of this radio button. You can't choose more than one option. So okay, you see, when I choose this one, it just moves to this one because you can't choose CSS and JavaScript at the same time, or HTML and CSS at the same time. You cannot choose more than one option. But now for checkbox, when we move to checkbox, you see that for checkbox, you can choose more than one option. You can choose both HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can choose more than one option at the same time. That's just the difference between this radio and checkbox. So I think the next one we'll do will be checkbox since I've already even talked about it. Sorry, am I too fast? I don't know. Let me even check. Oh, I've just been talking. I don't know. Not really visible. Uh, wow. Sorry, is my screen visible? Let me zoom
Yeah,
again.
I can see your screen.
Okay, someone said not really visible. I think it's the quality of their this
Yes.
thing.
Yeah, I
Increase the
think it's
quality of
network.
your Abi network. Who else cannot see the screen? Oh,
I can see your screen. Oh,
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. HTML is not case sensitive, Jonathan. It's not case sensitive, but I just prefer using lowercase. It's not case sensitive. Does the laptop have to be connected in order to install live server? You mean connected to the internet or something? You can use VS Code without data. You can use VS Code without your data being on. So yeah, sorry, I'm just going through. Let me see. Okay, there's no other. Um, it's visible. Okay, thank God it's visible. Okay, so we'll move to the next one, which is check boxes. So we've talked about how many types now. We've talked about the input text type. Then we've talked about the radio type. So now we're moving over to check boxes. Now this input type checkbox, it defines a checkbox. Checkboxes lets a user select zero or more options of a limited number of choices. So, like I explained already, this checkbox now is different from radio in that for checkbox now, that HTML, CSS, JavaScript stuff, I can actually select all of them at the same time if I want. But for radio, you can only select just one at a time. So that's just the difference between checkbox and the Another difference is that for this radio button is circular, usually circular, but for checkbox, I think it's usually square like. Yeah, it's usually square like. I think that's another distinct difference between the both of them. Okay, so now let's try this one. Checkbox. Let's so the next type now is checkbox. Uh sorry. Type checkbox. Then remember, if I want to comment this out now, I'll just press control and question mark and it comments out so that it does not show in my this thing. I'm just using it to like for easy explanation. So it's still I'll still use this same method whole stuff. I don't know if I should just copy and paste or I'll have to start typing it one by one. Let me just it's still the same thing. I'll just change some stuff. So let me just copy and paste, please, to save time. Okay. So for checkbox, but we'll use a different example now. We will not use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript now. We'll use maybe say you're trying to choose between three different cars, types of cars now. So let me change this name now. My name will not be favorite language again because I want to talk about cars. Remember, name is just to explain like the options, like what they're about. So I want to talk about my favorite cars or something. So let me I will just change this to maybe favorite cars or just cars itself or just cars. I could just use cars instead. So now, and remember the type is not radio. I just copied and pasted. So I'll change my type to checkbox because that's the type we're talking about now. So checkbox, checkbox. Okay. So don't forget ID, my ID. My ID now. The ID will be different for each of them. My ID, let me say, okay, let's just say Volvo is a type of car. I don't know types of names of cars again. So Volvo, SUV, and all that. So let me just take
I
my
think
first
Toyota,
and Toyota. Okay, okay. So this
Lamborghini.
first different types of cars. There's just so many of them. Okay, so let's just take this first one as Volvo. I don't know if this can still exist, sha, but we'll just share use it. Volvo. So the value now is not HTML, oh, it will be Volvo. No, I just copied and pasted, so that's why I hit my mistake. Now my label is for Volvo. And remember, the ID for input should always be the same with the attribute for label. So if my ID here is Volvo, that means this for now should be Volvo. So they should always be the same. So take note of that. Then here I'm changing it to Volvo because it's obviously Volvo, not HTML we're talking about. Okay, so what I'll just do now, I'll just copy and paste this in three places just to give like other options of cars. So we have Toyota B. Let me copy and paste. Let me just use three options. Okay, now this one still type checkbox. Now the ID will change because remember, ID has to be unique. It cannot be the same with another one. The ID has to be unique to a particular stuff. So let's say Toyota. The name, all of them will still have the same name because all of them are names of cars. You get all of them are names of cars. So the name is the same for all of them. Like this one now, favorite language, all these stuffs are languages. So that's why the names are the same for each of them. But the ID is unique to each of them because obviously ID like they're different distance, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So my name would be the same. I won't change my name. So the value now, I'll change this value to Toyota because Toyota now, there is this second option, Toyota. Okay. So my label for remember, since my ID now for this Toyota, my ID here is Toyota. My label would obviously be Toyota too. Toyota. Okay, and this will change to Toyota also. Toyota. Okay. So still the same thing. Input type here is checkbox. ID now. Which other car? SUV. Okay, SUV. So that's a car. SUV, the name will still remain because obviously they're all names of cars. So I won't change that. Then here I'll change here to SUV. SUV. Then my label for, I've said this a lot of times, so you get, so it will be SUV because your ID and 4 should be the same. Then here I'll change it to SUV. SUV. Okay, now let's see what our output looks like. So okay, let me use the BR distance so that like it won't be clustered together. I'll put the BR to separate this radio one from the check so that you see it clearly. Okay. So now, can you see this one now? This is what a checkbox looks like. Why this first one is a radio, there are radio buttons. So now you can see the difference. This one is circular, this one is square, square, square. Like then, aside that, for radio buttons, you can only select one option at a time. You can't select more than one option at a time. But now you see for this checkbox now, I can actually select like all of them if I want to. So see, Volvo, Toyota, SUV. I can actually select all at a time if I want. I can actually select just one if I want. I can uncheck, yeah, and just select one. So that's the difference between a checkbox and a radio button. So I guess that's clear. That should be clear. So now let's move to the next type, input type. Let's move to the next input type. Next input type is submit. And we all know like what submit button is. Obviously, it's used to submit a data. Submit. So we have here that the input type submit defines a button for submitting the form data to a form handler. The form handler is typically a file on the server with a script for processing input data. The form handler is specified in the form's action attributes. So now submit is used to submit like a form data. So I already have like stuff I've already written. So I won't have to start trying to like, okay, maybe I'll just copy and paste and just to show the submit this thing. So let's move to the next type we have. Um type submit, then control question mark to comment it out. Okay, now for this submit now, I'll just let me just copy and let me use this first one. Just copy and paste. It's just the submit that we want to show. So no need to start doing all this one by one. So I'll just paste this. But now I'll now have to add like a submit to show the submit this thing now. I'll now add input type submit value will be submit. So I have all this now. I have my first name, I have my last name. So it doesn't make sense if I just like have my inputs, like I can put my first name and my last name without submitting it. It will just be there, just be there without you submitting it. So it doesn't make sense. Forms always have like either a submit button, like it always has an action button. For this particular one now, we have like the submit. So now remember the input type is submit. Input type now submit. Here will be submit. We have these ones already because first name and last name, that's what we want to submit. We want to submit our first name and our last name. So after you've done all this, you can now put your input type submit, then the value is submit. Then I now close it. Okay, so we'll see what this looks like. Okay, let me use BR to you know differentiate all this so that use BR, like you can use BR like twice if you want to like give like two spaces just for clarity's sake. Okay, can use it as much as you want, sure. So this is for my submit now. My first name, my last name. Let me say I input my first name, Bridget, Ngozi. I've already imputed them. Then I'll now click on submit, and it submits, and this thing clears off. So that's just we know that's what submit button is for, just to submit like your input. Okay. Mm, okay. So that's it. Now let's move to what else? We've talked about name already. The name, that name stuff just tells you, okay, you're trying to select your favorite car, like, and you have names of lists of cars, so you could just write the name for all of them as cars, since all of them are cars. So it just describes what the form is about, like the options about of the form. So that's what name attribute is used for. So I think that's basically all the input types for the forms. Yeah, so I don't is there any question before I move to ID and classes? I already even talked about ID in a way when I was talking about this form. So is there any question before I move, or I should just continue then um after all the after everything? It's not visible again. Sorry, was it visible?
Yeah, it was. I think this person sent this around 10:56. So sorry.
Sorry, what did you say? Is it
Yeah,
visible,
he
guys?
said this. Yes, yes, it's visible.
Has it been visible like while I was explaining?
Yes, yes, it was.
Oh,
Yeah, yeah, it's
okay, okay.
visible, begin.
Okay, okay. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. So I don't know if there are any questions, Sha, you can just drop it in the comment and I'll see it. So I think I should just move to the next thing we have for today, which is ID and classes. ID and classes. Do I need to create like a different file for that? I'll just do it here, Sha. Now I won't put my ID and classes under forms because obviously we're not trying to create a form. So I'll just put it outside of the form. So ID and classes, then I'll just comment it. Control question mark. Remember, control plus question mark to comment. Okay, so uh okay. So W3 schools has everything that you need. So always go back to W3 schools to like read like extensively and do it. The good thing about WT schools also is that you have like where you can actually practice what you've learned so far, so that you really get to know it better. ID and classes. Okay, we'll start with ID because I already talked about that. HTML ID attributes. We have that the HTML ID attribute is used to specify a unique ID for an HTML element. And you cannot have more than one element with the same ID in an HTML element because it's unique to that particular element. But now classes, okay, I'll just be talking about classes, Sha, like because they're correlated. But for classes now, you can use the same class for different elements. But for ID, it has to be unique to that particular element. Okay. When I start the practical, I think you get it better. The ID attribute specifies a unique, yeah, we've said this before. And the ID attributes, you start it with this hash character, this hash character. Okay. When we start, you get to understand it better. Okay, now from this example that we can see here now, I think I should just okay. We've not started CSS styling, so you might not really get what is happening here, what all this background color padding, text align stuffs might mean. But when we start CSS, you would get to understand it better. But our focus now is just the ID. So see this H1 now. Let me then control. Let me zoom this. Okay, I think this should be clear enough. See this H. Okay, let me just write. Let me not use this so that you understand it better. Okay, so let me have like a paragraph. Okay, a paragraph now. P tag is for paragraph. I'm just trying to show an example. All right. She loves school. I don't know why I keep using school, Shabo. She loves school. Mhm. She loves school. So that's this paragraph now. She loves school. So where the ID comes in now, you write your ID, the ID attributes inside the start tag. You know the attributes we did yesterday, all those title and all those. Remember, it's always embedded in the start tag, like the opening tag. Sorry, or the start tag. Anyone, the opening tag. So I'll now write it here. Make sure like you leave space before you write the ID. Don't cluster it together with the P. So now ID, I'll now write ID equal to. So let me say my ID now. I would write your ID. You can name it anything, but like make sure your ID correlates to what you want to style so that you don't get confused. So my ID, I might just write school as my ID. I'll just write school as my ID. You cannot write SCH or anyhow you want to spell the school. It doesn't matter. It's peculiar to you. So, but I'll just write it in full so that you don't get confused. Then now this idea, I would, since we've not started styling, but don't worry, it won't be complex. Sha. I will now go to I would do an should I do an inline styling? Uh, okay. I might just have to let me just do an inline styling here. That will not show. Okay. So I'll go to my header, and put my style tag. So you understand it better when we start styling. Sha. I just want to explain this ID um better. So now under my style now, I'll now call my ID. And remember, ID starts with for you to call your ID, you use this hashtag. Yes, ID starts with this hashtag. So that's how you call ID. I remember what my ID was. I named my ID school. So hashtag whatever you named your ID school now. Then after that, you now open this curly bracket. You open a curly bracket. So this is how you style IDs. So hashtag the name of the ID, then you open a curly bracket. So that's basically how to style ID. So let me say now, color. I want to change the color of the text to, let's say, red. I want to change the color of the text to red. You might not really understand this because we've not started styling, but I just want to show like how the ID works. So you call your ID using this hashtag, then the name of the ID, which is school. Remember, the name of my ID was school. See it here. ID equal to school. So the hashtag school, then you open your curly brackets, then you can now start styling. So now you let me open the live server so you see what it looks like. So see it, she loves school. You can see that this she loves school is red because I using my ID, I was able to style it and change the color from black to red. So we could I think that's explanatory. For ID, you use the hash this thing to start it, then the name of the ID that you named already. Then you open a curly bracket, then you can now start styling it. Let me see now if I want to um change the font size. Maybe the font size is like the size of the write up. If I want to change the font size now, I want to make it very enlarged. Let me say like 30 px or something. So you might not get this because we've not started, but okay, let me know what to deep with this. You see that, can you see that it's now bigger? It's bigger. The font size is like increasing the size of the font. So yeah, using ID you can actually style your the sentence or the element. So that's basically all about ID. So now let's move to classes. So let me use the h1 tag and um Uh, what sentence should I write now? Okay. Mm, styling with classes, with class or something. Just writing. The content can be anything. No, it can just be anything. Sha. Mm. Hope the avatar is not block obstructing this stuff that is down here. I want to take note of that. Okay.
No, it's not.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for classes now, okay, let's just read through what class is all about before we now start the practical aspect of it. So let me see. Then you're not simple ID. Okay, difference between class and ID. Okay, class attributes. The HTML class attributes is used to specify a class for an HTML element. Multiple HTML elements can share the same class. So now we can see a difference between the class attributes and the ID attributes. For ID, it has to be unique to that element. Like if you're coding and you already used an ID, the ID attribute. Let me say you have ID equal to school. In another sentence or something, you can't use ID equal to school. You have to change that school to something else because an ID has to be unique. But if you want to reuse the same um ID in quote, you have to use class. You can't because you can't reuse ID. So let me say if I change that into class now equal to school, I can use class equal to school somewhere else. So that's different between ID attributes and the class attributes. So um let's just move into it. London is a capital. Okay. Okay. So here now, I can remember your ID or your class or whatever attribute it is. You always embed it in your in your opening tag. So I'll write class now equal to um let me just write style or some or let me just write. Hope style will not be confusing. I don't know what you can just use anything. You can name your class anything. So let me let me just name it styling or something. Let me just or I hope it doesn't get confusing, but it should be related to what you're writing so that when you like have like a bulk of code, you will not it won't be difficult to like find your classes. So we can see that my H1 here, my class, I named it styling. It can be named anything. It can be style, it can be width, it can be anything at all that you want to name it. So now let me go to my style to style it. So now this one now is for ID, right? So now let me for class now, it starts with a full stop. For ID, it starts with this hashtag or hash this hash symbol. But for class, when you're naming trying to name a class, it starts with full stop. When you're trying to call a class, sorry, not name a class, it starts with full stop. While for ID, it starts with hash. So remember what I named my class styling. My class, I named it styling. So just like this ID now, you put your hash to name your to call your ID. Then you now write the name of the ID that you wrote there, which is school. Then before you can now start styling. So that's the same thing you do for class, but just that now you're instead of using hash, which you use for ID, you use full stop. So full stop, then the name of my class, which is styling. Then you open a curly bracket, just the same way you did this one. So I'll now okay. Let me say what I want to do to that. I could maybe color. I want to change the color of the text to let's say green. I want to change it to green. Okay, I want to change it to green. Let's see what it looks like now. So this is what my class looks like, styling with class. This is what it looks like. I changed the color to green. It was initially black. So what else? Maybe let's say I want to reduce the font size. Maybe Maybe I want to reduce the font size to, let's say, 10 px, to make it smaller. Then let's see what it looks like. So you can see how small it is now. It's now very small. So with the ID and the class attributes, you could actually use it to style your document to your taste, like whatever you want to do. If you want to change the color, the font size, the font weight, the background color self, or anything at all, anything at all. Okay, that's what you use ID and the class attribute for. Okay, let me see. I want to change the background color now for this. Sorry, background color. Let me see. I want to change my background color to, let's say, red. Oh no, let's keep using red and green. To red. Now see what it looks like. This is the background of that particular stuff that you're styling. So I've changed the background to red, while the color of the text itself is still green, and I reduced the font size and all. So that's basically it. That's basically ID and classes. That's all for ID and classes. That's just basically it. Okay, I don't think there's any other thing to say. We know the differences now from all I've explained. We know the differences. We know the differences. So that's basically it. Mm, is there any question or something?
Bridget, someone is asking how to install a live server. Can you explain to her? Farhan.
Okay, no problem. Let me check. To install live server. Okay. So I'll go to my VS Code now. This is my VS Code. So you see all these icons. So would select the one that has extensions, right? Okay, additional. Yes, let me. Okay, because I zoomed this stuff too much. Let me. Okay. So see extensions here. I don't know if you can see this particular icon in your this thing. When you hover on it, you will see that they wrote extensions. It's like a tooltip that tells you what the icon is about. So when you hover on it, you see extensions. So you click on extensions because Live Server is an extension. So you click on extensions, then you see that you can actually include something. So I'll type Live Server to search for it. So when I type live server now, it will give me all these options. This is the particular live server that you could use. See, I've already installed my live server, so that's why you won't see the option for install here. Okay, like see this one now. I've not installed this particular one, so that's why this install option is here. So let me say I want to install this particular one now, but this is not the one you're installing. No, just you install this one with this icon. Or I don't know, maybe this one is also the same, but this is the one I use, the live server I use. So I'll just click on install, and you see installing. So write installing, and this stuff will be moving up here. So it's actually installing now. Just give it some very few minutes. It's installing, takes quite some minutes. It's trying installing. So I don't know, it's taking ages to install. My network is messed up. Yeah? Come in now. I'm in a class. So it's installing. When it's done, okay. Sorry. So it's taking time to install because of my network. So whenever it's done installing, then it will just be there, and it will be like this. It will show you that it has installed. So that's just how to install it. I don't know why this one is taking ages to install. Probably my network. So that's just it. When it's done installing, to write installed, and you know that it's installed. Then how you now use it? You go to your HTML file. You let me close this. Let me close this extension. This stuff. So you go to your HTML file. You don't click on like in between a write up. Just go to like an empty space like this now. So when you do that, you right click on your laptop. Okay, no problem. Thank you. You right click on your desktop. Then you see all these options. Since I've already installed my live server, I will just click on open with live server. I'll click on it. So then when I click on it, it will open. So this is it. I don't know if it was, I don't know, did I have you gotten how to install it? Divine Favor, you can read more about it on W3 Schools. I would send the link. W3 Schools, like it has basically everything you need to know about HTML, CSS, and all. So who asked the Farhan Abdul Salam? Have I answered you? Have you been able to install your live server? Mm, okay, probably should reply later. But I think that should have explained it. I'm not seeing the this thing again. The comments. Uh, okay, so I think that's all for today. Are there any questions from the forms that we talked about, or from the ID and classes? Are there any questions? I could just run through everything I've done. Like I could just run through it very fast. If there are any questions. Wait, am I still presenting?
No, do you still
No,
want?
no,
Do you
no,
want me
no,
to?
Am I still presenting?
no, no. It's not appearing.
Are you serious? Okay, sorry, I didn't even know. So that means the explanation is it still presenting now? No, not stop screen.
Yeah, it is.
Now, yeah, we are seeing your screen very
Okay,
well.
I'm so sorry about that.
No,
The
actually,
the,
it's
the
not from
explanation
your end.
for
I thought you had finished presenting, so I like took it off from the view because
okay,
of the
oh okay.
mirroring.
Oh, okay, I was wondering.
All right.
Okay. Uh so I don't know if that has explained how to install the lifestyle. I also sent it on WhatsApp, yes. Farah, and I sent it on WhatsApp. Like you could just use the procedure. It's very easy. Yeah. So that's basically everything. I don't know. Are there any questions or something? Are there any questions? Or I could just ask my own question, Sha. That's the first question. Are there any questions? Oh, my battery is even low. Okay, if there are questions, you could just drop it and they'll be responded to. Okay, I would I'm done already. Abid, I'm done. No, I'm done.
All right, then. Thank you very much. Thank you so much.
All right,
So,
sir. Thank you.
for everyone that doesn't have a question now, you push remember that we have assignments and we have quizzes. So, even though I ask your question now, you'll go and meet them inside your assignments and quizzes. So, but yeah, like you said, if you have any other questions and you haven't asked them yet, you can still ask them on the WhatsApp group. So we'll be ending the broadcast now. Thank you guys for joining. Thank you for joining. Thank you for joining. So have a
Okay.
good day, everyone. Then we'll meet tomorrow. Then you can as well practice all you've learned today on your laptops. Then for more practice, like she said, you should go to W3 schools. That's like you can get like a documented I don't know a documented view of
Mhm.
everything that she said.
Yes.
So that'll be all. Thank you.
Okay, no problem. I'll drop the link to W3 schools too.